Shalom, family. Good to see you all here. I hope you're doing well. Yeah, Donald Trump is getting a lot of opposition, and I'm not surprised. Europe, they are now coming out and saying they're not going to just let Donald Trump take Greenland. They will fight if they have to. So they are being very vocal about it. They don't want Donald Trump doing anything to Greenland. And they're saying that if he takes it, that means NATO is over because, Greenland is part of NATO and the United States is part of NATO. So they said this would completely destroy NATO altogether. And France is already stepping up to say they're ready to fight the US if they make any attempt to take Greenland. So they're letting him know right up front this ain't going to be like taking Venezuela. We will fight back. So I'm not surprised. Donald Trump really ruined the US relationship with Europe. Those were allies at one point in time. Not so much anymore. Donald Trump, he seems to make everybody an enemy, well, except for Putin. And it seems like it's just Putin and Israel. Everybody else he don't care about. So, tomorrow I think I'm going to show you that footage of Putin sending over his submarine. That thing looks as long as a street block. I mean, that thing is like massive. But I tell you what, the US did not make any more attempts to take Russia's oil tankers. It is kind of hilarious. But anyway, let's see here. Just a reminder. The flaxseed and aloe vera gel is for sale this week, only because I did not have it available during Black Friday and all the way up until Christmas Eve. So this is the first item for 2026 that I have put up for sale. And it's still 25% off until the 11th. So you can still grab this up. I've got plenty. I have a lot. I made a massive amount of it. So I have a lot on hand. So if it's something that you use for hair growth, because I know a lot of people with locks told me their locks have grown a lot since using my hair gel, and it makes me feel good. I'm glad it's something and you're benefiting from it. So that is an added plus. If you look in the pinned comments that I have up there, I have my Give Send Go for my upcoming surgery. And you can see my Zelle and my Cash App as well. So that's all pinned up there. So anybody that wants to give a donation, I deeply appreciate it. We're getting closer and closer to the goal every day. And I did tell everybody my date for the surgery is February 18th. That's the day they have me down for. So thank you so much for your emails. Thank you for your prayers. Thank you for your donations. It's all deeply appreciated and definitely not going unnoticed. All right, y'all. So let me get started here because the Europeans are giving a very stern warning to Donald Trump. And Donald Trump was also out there talking about Iran. I guess grabbing Venezuela just boosted his ego. And he is just saying all kinds of crazy mess out there right now. And, Donald Trump, don't let your mouth put out there a check that your ass can't cash because you ain't that mighty. People see how old and frail you look. And, you know, the globe don't seem to be afraid of America anymore. So I may not want to overstep your boundaries here. All right, y'all. Please give me a one if you can see my screen. Thank you. All right.
Donald Trump's post, everyone should immediately evacuate Tehran. That's not just some tweet, that's a warning, a historic warning from a sitting US president. And it's not empty words. Right now, 2 US aircraft carrier strike groups are heading straight towards the Middle East. We're talking Super Hornets, Growlers, advanced surveillance craft, all locked and loaded, ready to go. Trump told Iran, sign the deal or face consequences, and they didn't. And now Tehran might be staring down the barrel of the most powerful military in history. He's been saying it for years. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. And while Biden played around pretending in Delaware, Trump's laying out a strategy like a master tactician. This isn't just policy, this is 4D chess, and Iran missed their move big time. The question now is, will they fold, or will this spiral out into a full-on war? Either way, Trump warned them, and now history is being written in real time. Buckle up, because this could get wild.
In an unprecedented move, moments ago, almost all of Europe just united against the United States in its pursuit of Greenland. The leaders of the UK, France, Poland, Germany, Denmark, Italy, and Spain wrote a joint statement promising to defend Greenland's territorial integrity, saying that Greenland belongs to its people and is for Denmark and Greenland and only them to decide on matters concerning Denmark and Greenland.
All right, folks, look, we have some stunning breaking news reporting tonight that threatens to ruin Donald Trump's regime. Right now, Trump is trying to throw the military under the bus, blame them for his war crimes, and they're not happy about it. And they seem ready to come forward and speak. There's this major rift forming where Trump is trying to blame them for his war crimes in the Caribbean, but it's just not going to work, and they're not having it. And this was all contained in this new Washington Post article that dropped tonight. We're going to get into this and more in just a moment. Before I do that, please make sure to subscribe down below, drop a like on the video, comment. It all goes such an incredibly long way, and I'm so thankful for your support. But without further ado, let's get into it. It seems like the White House has the person they're going to blame, and it's not Donald Trump, it's not Pete Hegseth, it's an admiral at the Pentagon, at the Department of Defense. Pete Hegseth tonight, addressing these strikes and the ongoing reporting surrounding it, said, let's make one thing crystal clear. Admiral Mitch Bradley is an American hero, a true professional, and has my 100% support. I stand by him and the combat decisions he has made on the September 2nd mission and all others since. America is fortunate to have such men protecting us when the
following statement. Denmark will shoot first and ask questions later over Greenland. Do you understand that language better, Donald? Is that the mafia language that you like? They're going to shoot first and ask questions later. If you want a war with NATO, it'll be disbanded and they will go to war with you. If that's what you think about your Donroe doctrine in controlling the Western Hemisphere. Let's take a look at how it's reported by the Telegraph. Denmark will shoot for it first and ask questions later over Greenland. Danish soldiers will be required to shoot first and ask questions later if the United States invades Greenland under the Army's rules of engagement. On Wednesday, the Danish Defense Ministry confirmed the existence of a 1952 rule requiring soldiers to immediately counterattack invading forces without awaiting orders. The Defense Ministry also said that the rule remains in force when asked about its status by a center-right-leaning Danish newspaper, the Berlingske. This week, Donald Trump has threatened to invade Greenland over and over again, to which Greenland said, we're not for sale. Denmark said, they're not for sale. And according to this Danish newspaper, the 1952 rule states that in the event of an invasion, the attacked forces must immediately take up the fight without waiting for or seeking orders, even if the commanders in question are not aware of the declaration of war or state of war. When approached for comment, the Danish Defense Ministry told the newspaper the order on precautionary measures for military defense in the event of attacks on the country and during war remains in full force and effect. And European allies have held these meetings about how they will respond. We want to take action. We will do so together with our European partners. A German government source also told Reuters separately that Germany was working closely together with European countries in how to respond and protect Greenland in the event of a United States invasion. France is absolutely furious at Donald Trump and his regime, and they are preparing for war behind the scenes. France, Germany, many other countries in Europe, Canada, and others have made secret plans about how they will respond if the Trump regime invades Greenland. Also, we saw Denmark respond forcefully, reminding the United States that they have a doctrine. If they suspect an invasion is taking place, they will shoot first and ask questions later. Denmark, with the support of Europe, with the support of France, sending a clear message to the United States. If you invade, not only will NATO no longer exist, we are prepared to fight you. We are prepared to go to war. This is not what you did with Venezuela, where you took out Maduro and installed Maduro, another Maduro puppet, Delcy Rodriguez. Denmark, France, and Germany is ready for war with you, Donald Trump. That's the message that is being sent right now. I'm going to show you a clip in a moment of French President Emmanuel Macron, as well as the French ambassador to the United Nations. But first, I want to share what Reuters is reporting as well, that European allies, including France and Germany, are coordinating their response in case the U.S. moves to take control of Greenland. So France is working with its partners on a plan. How will it respond if the U.S. invades? They're getting prepared. They're taking it very seriously. Then Denmark put out the following statement. Denmark will shoot first and ask questions later over Greenland. Do you understand that language better, Donald? Is that the mafia language that you like? They're going to shoot first and ask questions later. If you want a war with NATO, it'll be disbanded and they will go to war with you. If that's what you think about your Donroe doctrine in controlling the Western Hemisphere. Let's take a look at how it's reported by The Telegraph. Denmark will shoot first and ask questions later over Greenland. Danish soldiers will be required to shoot first and ask questions later if the United States invades Greenland under the Army's rules of engagement. On Wednesday, the Danish Defense Ministry confirmed the existence of a 1952 rule requiring soldiers to immediately counterattack invading forces without awaiting orders. The Defense Ministry
his other commitments concerning Greenland. Greenland, therefore, is a territory that falls under Danish sovereignty. This will endure, and I know that the American people will continue to move forward with us for peace and security in Europe.
Next, let me share with you how the French ambassador to the United Nations described the U.S. invasion of Venezuela. Now, just to see France, a former top ally of the United States, speak out this way against the United States at the United Nations Security Council a few years back would be unfathomable, unthinkable, impossible. But under the Trump regime, with Donald Trump declaring that he and the MAGAs, and what Trump's view is that America's a predator. That's what they keep on saying. They keep saying they're predators. We're predators. And as predators, we must do what predators do and dominate the Western Hemisphere. Let's show you this clip of the ambassador to the United Nations from France. Here, play this clip.
Mr. President, the military operation which has led to the capture of Nicolas Maduro runs counter to the principle of peaceful dispute resolution and runs counter to the principle of non-use of force. The proliferation of violations of the Charter of the United Nations and the violations of international law by states vested with responsibility as permanent members of the Security Council chips away at the very foundation of the international order. Contravening the principles of the Charter, including the principle of respect for independence and the territorial integrity of states, undermines the foundation of the United Nations and weakens international peace and security. France remains faithful and committed to respect for the Charter of the United Nations and of the principle of peaceful dispute resolution. We have an obligation to uphold these principles at all times and in all places. Respect for these principles is indispensable.
Now, also this week, it should be noted that President Zelensky, Macron, Keir Starmer signed an important declaration of intent to deploy a future European multinational force in Ukraine, that if there were to be a deal with Russia, that Europe would commit its armed forces in the event of a Russian invasion after a peace deal. In addition, Prime Minister Carney, over the past 24 hours, meeting with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte. He described the alliance's efforts to secure peace in Ukraine and the need for robust security guarantees to increase the capabilities that our allies. Canada is quadrupling its defense spending over the next decade, part of our mission to rearm and reinvest in the Canadian forces. Now, Donald Trump's like, you see, I got Canada to raise its military budget. Look what I'm doing. Yeah, they're raising their military budget to protect against an invasion from you. Canada is preparing in the event that you, Trump regime, invade Canada. And we showed how some of the conservatives, not like conservative in theory per se, but some of the real kind of center of the line Canadian newspapers are now saying Canada should prepare for a potential war and that the United States is serious about taking over Canadian sovereignty. Now, earlier in the day yesterday, Caroline Leavitt, there she is right there, dressed like Pink Dress Lady from North Korea. She chose the exact same outfit as Pink Dress Lady. I think Caroline Leavitt's even a more ridiculous figure than Pink Dress Lady, but that's just me. I think Kim Jong-un wished that Pink Dress Lady was as propagandy, it's not even a word, was even more of a propagandist, propagandy like Caroline Leavitt. Here's what Caroline Leavitt said when she was asked by state regime media Fox about why don't you just say you're not going to invade Greenland? Like, they're an ally, Denmark's an ally. Why can't you just rule that out? Watch what Caroline Leavitt has to say. Play this clip.
Caroline, following up on Greenland, why not rule out taking it by military force?
I know that past presidents and past leaders have often ruled things out. They've often been very open about ruling things in and basically broadcasting their foreign policy strategy to the rest of the world, not just to our allies, but most egregiously to our adversaries. That's not something this president does. All options are always on the table for President Trump as he examines what's in the best interest of the United States. But I will just say that the president's first option always has been diplomacy. Again, look at Venezuela. He tried ardently to strike a good deal with Nicolas Maduro, and he told him, I will use the United States military and you will not like it if you don't take such a deal. And look at what happened. With respect to Iran, the president said the same thing, right? He tried to have serious interest in a deal with the Iranian regime with respect to their nuclear capabilities. Were not interested. And so Operation Midnight Hammer happened, which was another remarkable military success under the leadership of this commander-in-chief. So
Denmark has issued one of its most shocking warnings ever to Washington. If U.S. forces attempt to seize Greenland, Danish troops are ordered to open fire, even if the invaders are fellow NATO allies. Tensions exploded after President Donald Trump once again declared Greenland a U.S. national security priority, reviving calls for a full American takeover of the Arctic territory. In response, Danish officials confirmed that their military operates under strict standing orders to defend Greenland against any invasion, no exceptions. The warning sent shockwaves through Europe. 7 NATO and EU nations have publicly backed Denmark, stressing that Greenland is sovereign Danish territory and not for sale. Behind the scenes, diplomats fear Trump's rhetoric is colliding with Cold War-era defense rules that leave little room for miscalculation. Greenland's strategic value is enormous. Rare earth minerals, Arctic shipping lanes, and growing Russian and Chinese activity have turned the island into a geopolitical pressure point. While experts say an actual war remains unlikely, the language on all sides is hardening, and even a small incident could fracture NATO unity and destabilize the Arctic. For now, Greenland stands at the center of a standoff no alliance was built to handle.
We're hearing in the last 24 hours, nations have erupted and World War III warnings are now being issued to Donald Trump and the United States. Take a look at the latest headlines with me. You can see here, China and Russia demand that Trump releases Maduro as World War III fears grow. Russia slams Trump, vows to defend Venezuela as World War III fears erupt. World War III soon. You can see this coming out all over the headlines in the last 24 hours. Kim Jong-un enters the U.S.-Venezuela conflict, issues a stern message to Donald Trump, says, leave my friend or else. Trump triggers World War III in U.S.'s backyard. Venezuela FM rallies Latin American nations after Maduro's kidnapping, they say. Now, we are hearing that Donald Trump, he has issued warnings to various nations. Trump issues a threat against multiple countries following Venezuela's strike. And take a look. One of those was Colombia. Come and get me. The Colombian president's war of words with Trump now escalates. Cuba also faces an uncertain future after the U.S. topples Venezuelan leader Maduro. And take a look at this. Now, this is really concerning to NATO members. Trump weighs using U.S. military to acquire Greenland. The White House updated 14 minutes ago. And also take a look at this. Mexico should indeed be concerned. Trump's threat rattles Mexican officials and businesses. And we are seeing just moments ago, Trump has announced that I am pleased to announce that the intermittent authorities in Venezuela will be turning over between 30 to 50 million barrels of high qualified sanctioned oil to the United States of America. So, man, there are so many headlines and so many nations that are starting to jump into the mix of what's happening with the United States and Venezuela. And there are World War III warnings left and right. Let me know your thoughts. Are we about to enter into World War III? If you think so, put a WWIII in the comments, as we're hearing that China, Russia, North Korea are responding to what's happening with the Venezuelan president. We're seeing other nations that are being threatened by the United States. There is a lot taking place, and NATO is concerned because that all nations band together when there is an opposing threat against one of the nations. But what if one of the nations is threatening another one of the nations as a part of the NATO alliance? So it is getting very concerning here. They're not really sure what to do. We've never been in this territory before. Now, I have got a ton of video footage and articles that have been coming out in the last 24 hours. I'm going to be sharing with you so that way you can see it for yourself. See the dates, see the sources, and know and rest assured this is the latest. I've hyperlinked all these articles in the description so you can click them, go read them for yourself if you want to read specifically on what's happening with Colombia, Venezuela, Cuba, Mexico.
Congratulations to the Republicans who just grew a spine and voted with Democrats to pass the War Powers Resolution, which is going to attempt to block Trump from just doing whatever he wants with the U.S. military, including just invading random countries whenever he feels like it. This is a statement from Senator Kaine. Where will this go next? Will the president deploy our troops to protect Iranian protesters, to enforce the fragile ceasefire in Gaza, to battle terrorists in Nigeria, to seize Greenland or the Panama Canal, to suppress Americans peacefully assembling to protest his policies? Trump has threatened to do all this and more and sees no need to seek legal authorization from people's elected legislature before putting service members at risk. I couldn't have said it better. And the fact that Republicans are starting to break from the Republican Party and from Trump in order to just try to uphold the very shaky bones of our Constitution is a very good sign. I'm hearing a lot of discussion about Trump being a lame duck president. They are anticipating an enormous loss in the midterms, which again is part of the reason that they are attempting to manufacture a war as quickly as possible, to manufacture consent from the American people, for Trump to have a blank check to just do literally whatever he wants with this country and with our lives. And they know that they're losing. It's also the reason why Trump is now suddenly talking about how he wants to stop private equity from owning single family homes in this country. Oh, well, you had a whole year already to do something about that. And the timing seems suspicious. So let's see if he actually does it. He knows Americans are extraordinarily unhappy. And now people in his own party are starting to turn on him. Good.
You guys, we have some breaking news. The United States Senate just voted 52 to 47 to block Donneria from unilaterally striking Venezuela. Let me repeat this. The Senate just stepped in to stop the sitting president from dragging the country into another war on its own. All Democrats voted yes, and 5 Republicans broke ranks to join them. This vote advances a war powers resolution which says the president cannot launch or expand military action against Venezuela without explicit approval from Congress. This is not symbolic. This is not messaging. This is Congress saying you don't get a blank check. And here's why this matters. This comes after recent U.S. military action tied to Venezuela that lawmakers say they were not properly briefed on, that set off alarm bells on all sides of the aisles, because under the Constitution, Congress declares war, not the president acting alone. Trump has been escalating rhetoric, threats, posturing, talking like war is inevitable. That's not true. And today, the Senate said, not without us, babe. Now, the important part, this does not mean war is off the table forever. The resolution still has to clear the House. And yes, Trump could try to veto it, but make no mistake, this is a rare bipartisan rebuke of Trump's war powers. 5 Republican senators looked at the situation and said, we have gone too far. That should scare everyone, because if members of Donna Ria's party are saying slow down, that tells you how reckless this trajectory is. Yes, let's be very clear. This vote happened because the lawmakers are trying to stop another conflict, another unauthorized military escalation, and another war sold as necessary after the fact. This is Congress trying, finally, to reassert its role before bombs start falling, not after. And if you're wondering why MAGA world is so quiet about this, it's because they love war rhetoric until someone actually puts guardrails on it. This is a constitutional check. This is a separation of powers. This is the system finally working and saying, not today. So stay locked in, because this fight is not over. And anyone cheering for war from the sidelines just got told, you don't get to decide this alone, you two-tooth cousin fucker.
So what can the Congress do about it is the next question.
Well, the next question is very simple, and that is that we have the War Powers Act. That's a privilege resolution, which means the Republicans can't block it. Tim Kaine and I and Rand Paul are sponsors of it. It's going to come to the floor this week. And if it is voted for, if it's voted positively in both houses, then the president can't do another thing in Venezuela without the okay of Congress. We have to.
We're hearing in the last 24 hours, nations have erupted and World War III warnings are now being issued to Donald Trump in the United States. Take a look at the latest headlines with me. You can see here, China and Russia demand that Trump releases Maduro as World War III fears grow. Russia slams Trump, vows to defend Venezuela as World War III fears erupt. World War III soon. You can see this coming out all over the headlines in the last 24 hours. Kim Jong-un enters the U.S.-Venezuela conflict, issues a stern message to Donald Trump, says, leave my friend or else. Trump triggers World War III in U.S.'s backyard. Venezuela FM rallies Latin American nations after Maduro's kidnapping, they say. Now, we are hearing that Donald Trump, he has issued warnings to various nations. Trump issues a threat against multiple countries following Venezuela's strike. And take a look. One of those was Colombia. Come and get me. The Colombian president's war of words with Trump now escalates. Cuba also faces an uncertain future after the U.S. topples Venezuelan leader Maduro. And
Well, this thing don't look good, does it? But this is what happens when you have a very incompetent, power-hungry president that really should not be a sitting president. See, if America had a moral compass, you would not let a 34 convicted felon be your president. But we know these folks are morally bankrupt, so they don't care. Just as long as it's a white male, they can be in office. It doesn't matter if they got knowledge or not, or competent or not. Just put a white male in there. So that's exactly what you got, a white male. You certainly don't have anybody of substance as your president. So y'all, this is just one big mess. Look at how they're starting out 2026 in the Gentile world, y'all. Look at how this year is Look at how this year is starting out. You know, this right here is a precursor to how bad this year is going to be. It really is. This is a precursor. You know, it is not going to get better as we go along. It's not. It is impossible under somebody like Donald Trump. No, it is never going. He never makes anything better. He didn't even make things better in his first administration. So anyway, this, y'all, we shall see what's going to happen, because yesterday when I showed y'all the video of Donald Trump talking about Greenland, he's talking about they want to get Greenland in the next 20 days. And I'm like, next 20 days? That's like the end of this month. So anyway, we'll see if they're going to really go in there and take Greenland. You know, I think Donald Trump his ego done got inflated over Venezuela, and maybe he think if he hijacks all these different nations, they're all going to be easy. Well, I do know because I was reading some articles. Colombia is in a war of words with Donald Trump right now, and they're letting him know you ain't gonna come in here like you did Venezuela. In other words, they're warning him that they're going to be using some things on the United States if they go into Colombia. And, I think a lot of countries are going to take that position because of how easy it was to go in there and get Maduro. Now, y'all know a lot of people got killed up in there when they dropped all them bombs down on, because some of that area that got bombed were residential areas. So they never did give the number of how many casualties there were in Venezuela. It was quite a few. And the reason why they were able to get Maduro is because they unalived his security detail. That's what they did when they went in there. They unalived all of them. So that's why it was easy for them to sweep in there, grab Maduro in less than 30 minutes and his wife, and got out of there. But all around the world, there are leaders demanding that Donald Trump let him go, let him and his wife go. But I don't think Donald Trump will. They want to be able to go into Venezuela and, take all the resources out like they have in other places. And so, no, they're going to keep him detained and his wife detained. But the cries all around the world is for Donald Trump to let him go. Boy, what a big mess. What a big mess. Antithesis, thank you so much for your super chat. And James Mitchell, thank you so much for your super chat. Alchia supporting, that's what you wrote, Antithesis. And James Mitchell, thank you for being honest, helpful, kind, and for your excellent work. Thank you too. And look, I deeply appreciate the support I get. I really do. I don't take it for granted. And I really enjoy our time together. And I hope that, this will still be, despite what's going on with me, this will still be a really good and prosperous and, a blessed year for the Hebrew family. That's what I'm looking forward to. It's no telling what's going to happen as we start approaching our new year, our actual new year. So I'm sure it will be one hell of a show because Donald Trump sure won't disappoint. So y'all, please enjoy your night. I might have one more coming up, but it won't be until probably after 8 o'clock. The flooding is really bad in California. So we may look at some of those videos and then I'll probably conclude for today. But again, thank you. And just look in the pinned comment if you want to make a donation to my Give, Send, Go. It is moving along nicely, and I'm really grateful for that. So everybody, please enjoy your evening and be on the lookout for my next live stream. Shalom, family.